Hi, I am your host, Henry Clavo, CEO and founder of Orlando Insight Group. Each episode, we dive into real conversations with technology leaders, innovators, and experts who are shaping the future of IT and cybersecurity. Our goal is simple to give you practical insights, real world strategies, and expert perspective that you can use to drive smarter decisions and stronger results for your business. Thank you for joining us. And our today's guest is Melinda deHoll, a healthcare executive, AI implementation leader, and a nationally recognized voice on leadership excellence in complex systems. With more than 20 years of experience across frontline care, system wide operations, and federal healthcare leadership, Melinda is known for bridging clinical expertise, operational rigor, and emerging technology to deliver measurable and human centered impact. Recently retired as the director of operation the Department of Veteran Affairs Central Office in DC. Her work focuses on responsibly integrating artificial intelligence, improving workforce effectiveness, and strengthening governance and decision making at scale. She's also a Harvard Kennedy School Senior Executive Fellow and a credential healthcare administration at FAHI, bringing a rare combination of clinical, executive, and policy fluency to her leadership approach. Melinda's leadership philosophy emphasizes trust as infrastructure, uh, something leaders must design, measure, and project protect with the same discipline applied to cost, speed, and performance. Her work helps organizations move beyond the AI hype toward durable, ethical, and people-centered transformation. As an AHE member, board participant, and a frequent advisor on healthcare innovation and workforce development, Melinda is deeply committed to serving leadership and building systems where clinician staff and patients can thrive together in an AI-enabled future. So, Melinda, welcome.
Morning. Thank you for having me, Henry.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're here. We can get started. Melinda, your story begins with both business and caregiver in your day. Can you share how your earlier experience shaped your leadership journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that leadership was sort of inbred in me at a really young age. Um, I was a daddy's girl growing up, and my father was very much a scrappy entrepreneur and had his own businesses, and I followed him everywhere. And I watched and tried to emulate everything he did. I think he taught me a lot of things about leadership. Strategy and vision are very important and critical, obviously, but how you lead and where you really try to drive impact and change is equally important. And I think that I I learned from him to be a courageous leader and to really invest in and develop my team, and to understand that when those things are aligned and our goal is really to serve and better humanity, that's when you realize your best outcomes. I also unfortunately had the experience of my father being diagnosed with terminal cancer when I was in my 20s, and uh, my parents were divorced, so I was his caregiver, and I was a young mom. I had two little kids at home, and I was in college and trying very hard to do life. And I had the unfortunate opportunity to spend a lot more time in hospitals than just work. But I think one of the gifts that came out of that experience is I got to sit by my father as he, unfortunately died of cancer. But I got to see from different perspectives, kind of the healthcare world, and really sitting at a bedside as both a daughter and a clinician and a healthcare leader really helped to cement for me the need for process and technology and really human connection and humanity to work together to make the best outcomes, and to really, again, back to what my dad had taught me at a young age, to make sure that what we're doing is really serving humanity. So I think that that's been encoded in me in a really young age, and I'm still working on being the best leader I can be, but definitely those are my guiding principles.
Yeah, not only that, but you also grew in leadership at Veterans Health Administration and then just do executive coaching and academic partnerships. So those very uh, strong values really guide you through those two
Mhm.
opportunities to work in a very tough industry. So, uh, congratulations. What were the lessons from leading in the nation's largest integrated healthcare system? You've been coaching executives for years. What patterns do you see in leaders to succeed in transformation?
Okay, well, those are two big questions. Maybe I'll separate them. I think many lessons learned in an enormous healthcare system over decades of experience. But I think a particular lesson that seems really resonant right now, as far as what all industries are going through in AI transformation, is just understanding what happens to good people in really complex ecosystems. And I think when your system serves hundreds and hundreds of hospitals and clinics all across the US and even globally, when you work at the central office level, you're really able to have almost a unparalleled kind of bird's eye view. Um, you're able to see changes, you're able to see failures, you're able to kind of see pockets of performance or of failure. And I think that one of the things that has really emerged again is particularly relevant to me right now is that even your best performing, most committed and mission driven teams, they really get squeezed by time pressure and by volume and throughput pressure and policy that maybe doesn't align with the agency's most current priorities. And what happens when that occurs is that workarounds get enabled.
Mm,
Decisions, little workarounds that people used to use had a checks and balance system in the ecosystem. But
mm,
now that we have AI, everything's moving even faster, especially with agentic AI. And
mm,
what happens is these small workarounds all of a sudden become standard practice very quickly.
mm,
Decisions that people used to make very thoughtfully and intentionally are becoming almost automated very quickly. Uh, Questions that used to pause teams often don't get asked at all.
mm,
And what happens is really a risk and a potential for defect at scale if indicators and leadership are not watching. And I think that the real risk isn't a single failure or even a single person or team. It's when that goes unnoticed and when that human judgment and oversight starts to slip and starts to compound over time. And I think that leaders, we know that operate or that conditions are really what drive outcomes, and that building conditions is one of our responsibilities as a leader. But what is happening is leaders were never trained to build the types of conditions and infrastructure that's needed for this fast-paced artificial intelligence transformation. It really is different than other
mm.
technological transformations of the past. And I think that there's just not the same level of readiness and expertise that there once was. I'm a real big fan of Edward Deming, and I've always really enjoyed his kind of famous quote about systems are get the outcomes they were designed to get. And I think leaders everywhere know that quote, and sometimes it kind of convicts you in the heart a little bit. But I think today's day and age, it's more important than ever, and it's really a wake up call
Mhm.
to all of us of how we need to learn to build differently moving forward if we really do want to see long term ROI.
You make a strong case, Melinda, especially now in the tech world. And the CEO of Microsoft mentioned get on board with AI or get left behind. So it's also a trade-off, adopting AI, but also leave behind the human element of this transformation. So it does make sense. What a leader brings in an organization really does determine the success and failure of their org. So. Um, you completed Harvard's Senior Executive Fellows Program. How did that experience reshape your leadership philosophy?
Yeah, I've been a leader a long time, and I've had the privilege of going through many amazing leadership development programs and internships and opportunities. But I think I think the Harvard program really landed differently for a few reasons. One is just where I'm at in my career,
Mm,
kind of as a senior executive, really starting to consider what my next chapter might look like. Harvard's an amazing experience just because of the level of intellect and rigor and the faculty and the cohort that you're exposed to. But Harvard is known for their phrase, "Ask what you can do," and I think that that's something that has resonated with me at different points in my life. But right now, just really understanding that, I think life over the last few years and experiences I've had have really given me the opportunity to experience AI in a different way than other leaders have had the opportunity, and really to just consider how I want to sort of leave my legacy and really make a difference in helping leaders and teams be successful as we move into this phase of rapid adoption that you were talking about. I mean, leaders, to your point, are being asked to accelerate AI purchases, adoption, implementation at a pace really that no one can keep up with. And then, as you also pointed out, you add the threat of losing competitive advantage and not getting the best, IT savvy staff. And it's really a lot of pressure for people. And so I think Harvard really inspired me to end this wonderful, amazing chapter and really start to think about what the next chapter looks like. And I think it's really given me some excitement behind leading artificial intelligence adoption, especially in healthcare.
yeah, especially there needs community and renewal of leadership now, since it is a new world and a new beginning for the organization. So that makes sense. And you've seen healthcare from every angle, as a nurse, as an executive, and a caregiver. What are providers facing today?
For providers have an incredible amount of cognitive burden and just really unfair level of overload and responsibility. And when I talk to folks, I like to use a healthcare example because I think we're all patients and we've all been in the healthcare environment, and I think it really helps people
Mm,
kind of understand what we're asking of providers. But if you think of yourself and you go see your primary care provider, your unspoken assumption is that that doctor has reviewed your entire medical history. For someone like me, that's maybe more years than I'd like to admit, but
mm,
that's a lot of data. And they're also supposed to know every diagnosis on the planet and how every set of symptoms, yours especially, align, where they fit in, every medication you've taken and everything about those medications and those interactions. They're also supposed to be able to pay attention to me while I'm sitting across from them and make me feel like they're listening and they're present
mm,
and they're really assessing me well. And meanwhile, they're supposed to be documenting on their computer everything that's happening and all they're assessing. And they're supposed to be assimilating in their head all your personal health insurance plans, requirements, the coding and the policies and expectations of their facility. And you get the point here, but most primary care visits are minutes, and they're stacked with one right before and one right after. And what's happening is that healthcare has gotten so far away from that human connection and
mm,
so far away from allowing that provider to have time to actually physically assess and interact with that patient. And that's unfortunate for a lot of reasons. One, it impacts patient care. Two, it really impacts the way doctors and nurses feel about healthcare and about the profession.
mm,
And people go into healthcare because they passionately care and want to heal and serve humanity. And we're seeing a really unfortunate dynamic really across the world, not just in the US, but doctors and nurses don't want to go into medicine anymore. We
mm,
already have some of the worst shortages we've ever seen. Demand for care is growing exponentially, and people are not choosing these professions anymore. And so it's really unfortunate. And I think that the point that not being able to provide the kind of quality patient care you want to the patients you went to school all these years to serve
mm,
really causes there's a term for it, and it's very real, a moral injury for
mm.
healthcare providers and clinicians. And I think that healthcare as a whole is aware this is happening, but I also think this is a really wonderful opportunity for AI, if done correctly, and if built with the human infrastructure and with human conditions in mind, I'm hopeful that it's an opportunity that we can make healthcare more meaningful both to the patient and the clinicians again.
Right. Yeah, it has to make sense. Try to help your patients and trying to help the people, but it also has to come at a tangible ROI, better care, and early interventions. And also, um, I had an experience once. I was at a healthcare facility, and instead of a human, they put a machine, and I was treated through um, a like a Zoom type of call,
Mhm.
same as my father. So I think the ROI is already saving on travel and costs for experts just through just virtual interaction. So I guess it makes sense. And what you alluded to, the issues of people not going to these fields or joining. So I guess that is the challenge. Less talent and costs to make sure that there's care for people. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting, Henry. What you're talking about is telemedicine, and ambient scribes are probably one of the more adopted things in the clinical aspect of healthcare. Healthcare's been using forms of AI for a long time in kind of back end administrative processes. But what's kind of exciting and a little bit scary if it's not done right is really integrating it more directly into clinical care and
Mhm.
into places where once humans really were the experts, and that human judgment at various touch points throughout that patient experience is what kept patients safe. And
Mhm.
so it's an exciting time, and the benefits of AI are undeniable, but there's also a risk. And again, that falls to leadership to
Yeah.
make sure that infrastructure, that governance, and that those safety mechanisms remain intact, and learn how to do that in an environment where leaders and clinicians haven't been taught to do that before.
And yeah, it's new, and right now the White House is setting a unified regulation for this type of care, a type of privacy and protection of their information. So more more to come in this space. Uh, you're working on a book called "Leading AI Adoption of Healthcare." AI doesn't adopt itself. Coming out in January 2026. What made
Mhm.
you feel compelled to write this now?
You know, um, Obviously, I'm passionate about healthcare. That's why I've poured my heart into it for decades. But I think I have had just a really rare and uncommon opportunity the last several years to really be hands on with artificial intelligence in healthcare. Um, I got to actually experience AI not from a textbook or a course online, but
Mm,
to actually be an AI founder and builder. And even more important than well, I've gotten to work on amazing things, clinical decision support programs and triage protocols and preemptive denials management and referral and workflow.
Melinda?
Yeah, there we
Oh,
go.
yeah.
But what's even more important is I got to co-design on the front lines with those clinicians, with those leaders, with those fringe and support staff around the organization. And I think the benefit of that is I wasn't watching AI adoption from a boardroom or from a dashboard or from the mouth of a vendor.
Mm,
I was watching people in the room decide if they wanted to use that tool and understand what their barriers were and see the humanity and the human reaction with that. And I think that between those experiences and really just that proximity, living and breathing that with the users and seeing that human journey, and then just kind of the call to action and the reminder from Harvard that this is my legacy chapter,
mm.
and I really feel like the universe has just brought these experiences together, and I want to share what I've learned and what I've experienced. And I think everyone's read all the data coming out from all the big five, from Gardner and McKinsey and MIT, and The statistics, Henry, are very humbling. 95% never produce a meaningful ROI.
Mm,
Less than 5% make it into actionable daily workflows. And
mm,
even then, most pilots stall at like 12 to 18 months. That is an error message. That's a red flag alarm to all of
mm,
us. It's a wake up call. And I really passionately believe that it's the need to build that human infrastructure, to embed governance, not just in these regulations that are coming out. Regulations are just regulations, but we have to learn how to actually embed governance and embed safety and embed human infrastructure in the flow of work.
mm.
And I'm no expert and I'm no perfect solution, but I feel like I've had several years now of just really incredible experience from all three of those perspectives that allows me to be able to put that learning and that decades of knowledge together for other leaders to learn from and to have actionable, practical steps they can take now. And hopefully that we'll continue to evolve and iterate together as we all learn, because so much is changing so fast right now. So I really just hope that this book will fill a really apparent gap right now and not finish the conversation and not be the perfect solution, but this is uncharted territory for all of us, and we have to start and we have to share what we're learning so that we can adapt and evolve together. And AI is not going away, so we really need to learn how to co-build and co-design and co-iterate as partners with AI.
An excellent point you bring out, Melinda, especially projects that fail. Yeah, working in the tech industry, yeah, we build and build a lot of products, but usually they don't come to market because usually the use case is too complex, or the use case is too small, or it's not niche enough. So yeah, being able to use the technology but also solve a problem, not replace the human, but find a way to reduce the workload or bottleneck that is struggling, removing a barrier that would succeed. So, yeah, it's a ongoing iterative process, but that makes sense. And while it's written from the healthcare lens, the concepts clearly apply to any industry. Can you give an example of how?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think we've kind of talked about this throughout this call today, but the human experience with AI and AI adoption is
Mm,
the human experience, and it's not limited. It's not limited to healthcare. Obviously, I wrote my book through a healthcare lens because that's where my credibility and firsthand experience come from. But these practices align with all the industry governance and safety practices and requirements, and there are challenges that we're all feeling. Industry as a whole, I think the MIT a couple months ago at $30 to $40 billion investment.
mm,
uh, this is not specific to healthcare, and I think that the book resonates with other audiences because it's healthcare and it's an experience we all share. And just like you and I were walking through an experience with a primary care provider, we've all been there. So I think it's a very relatable example. I'm
mm.
hoping that resonates with others. And I do a lot of work in the education and leadership development circles as well. And I think that the lessons are broadly applicable: leadership and humanity and human infrastructure and governance and safety, and the need for true, meaningful, long-term, enduring ROI are consistent across industries.
Okay, yeah, and that also brings about the initial implementation. Like when they think about AI success, it's all about implementing. Uh, Other than the human element, and what should they be paying attention to if they care about long term ROI, not just short term wins?
Yeah, I think it's the conditions and the environment we create.
Mm,
It's leaders' job to create operational conditions, and that means safety structures. That means in the flow of work, governance and feedback loops. Uh, I hear a lot of people right now saying, "Well, training's the answer," and I'm a big advocate for training, and I'm a huge philomath and lifelong learner. But taking a class is not the same as experiencing AI and as learning where its strengths are and where you need to apply more diligence as a human. And it's like with any tool, when you first start using it, there's a little bit of skepticism and there's a little bit of hesitation. And by actually being hands on in the flow of work and understanding, having provenance and transparency
Mhm.
really helps. I think really helps that progress. And over time, hopefully, people are willing to engage and to help co design and to really help co architect that future that AI and humans will share together.
Mhm. Got it, got it. And there's been a lot of conversations about companies, not only IBM but Amazon, automating roles and then reinvesting in others. From your perspective, what's the real lesson there for leaders and internal tech teams? Uh, a good example is layoffs and changes in their organizational structures. What insights can you provide there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a lot of chaos going on right now and a lot of different approaches. And I think that the key takeaway, there's a lot of fear around all of that. I
Mm,
think humans feel very different when they're worried that their livelihood and their this skill set that they've spent their life building
mm,
might go away. But I think that the takeaway here is AI has amazing power. And
mm,
there are things we know it's very good at. It's better at certain things now than humans are. And that's not really been something we said about AI in the past. But it's very true now. And then the data is showing that more and more. I think the right question is, what does AI do well? And what still requires human judgment? And I think, the example with IBM, um, they got rid of positions to do what they thought AI was good at. And then they were able to understand where that human judgment was non negotiable and where that human judgment really was at the end of the day, where their ROI and their impact couldn't make it all the way without AI. And
mm.
so they very intentionally redesigned roles and are thoughtfully reinvesting to make sure they keep that human judgment and that human skill set in their operations where it needs to be. And I think again that's the takeaway. Hopefully, organizations are pausing and are trying to do that in a thoughtful manner before just blind layoffs. I think that obviously that's not my preferred approach for a lot of reasons. I think it damages trust with your team. I think it damages your ability to recruit and retain employees long term if you damage that trust. So I think that really considering the strengths and weaknesses of both AI and humans, and then thoughtfully redesigning roles and reinvesting where you really understand that in the future that human judgment and skill set will be necessary and add value to your organization.
Yeah, yeah. This serves as a learning opportunity, and to take heed on the research and make good decisions. So that makes sense. You often say that empathy, evidence, and empowerment are the foundations of great leadership. What final lessons will you leave our listeners today?
Hmm. I do believe those are foundational leadership skills, and I think they're foundational because we're navigating great uncertainty, and um, we'd be lying if we didn't say we were part of that uncertainty, right? That I know I have fears about AI, about what that means to my future and my relevance and my livelihood, and I think that when we're honest with our fellow leaders and with our teams about those types of things, I think that it makes it safe for them to have conversations with us and to be authentic and real. I think we really need to look at the evidence right now. And when I say evidence, of course, I mean the evidence everyone's already looking at.
Mm,
But I also mean that we need to revisit what our dashboards are measuring. Historically, we've been very focused on a particular set of ROI metrics or things like percent automated. And I think as we move forward in our relationship with artificial intelligence, we're going to get wiser about the things we manage. And we're going to start looking for early indicators, not lagging indicators of success in our organization. And it's an exciting time. I think that great things are going to come about and really excited to get to be a part of it.
we're excited about what you will be doing in the next year, projects. Uh, we would love for you to come back and tell us all about your success, especially what will 2026 bring, Melinda. But thank you so much for being a guest at the Orlando Insights podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Henry. It's been an honor.
Melinda, how can people connect with you or follow your work?
Well, I think LinkedIn is a great start. And, I think I said this earlier, but this is a journey and an evolution. And I really always interested in talking with people who share a passion for this kind of work and who are learning real lessons in leadership and in the trenches. I love coaching. I love helping with transformation events. And I think that when we all learn together and when we're really willing to share information with each other, that's how we're going to succeed collectively. And that's my goal. So please reach out on LinkedIn, and the book will be on all the normal channels by the end of January. So look me
Awesome.
up. Thanks,
Yeah.
Henry.
And the book title is called Leading AI Adoption in Healthcare. AI Doesn't Adopt Itself, really coming out January 2026. Please be sure to check her book. And yeah, thank you, Melinda. Thank you for also our listeners for attending today's sessions. If you want to learn more about our special guests, please follow us on LinkedIn, and episodes like this will be posted on YouTube and Spotify. So have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.